Hey folks, this is the other Barak coming to you live and direct from Africa. We have a video today of Natasha Hausdorff and Dave Smith on Piers Morgan, one that you do not want to miss. Let's take a look.
It's disqualifying to this conversation. You're playing a different game than me and Pierce are. We're having a conversation about what's actually going on. You're a lawyer who's not allowed to incriminate your client, which is Israel, because you know the answer the same way Pierce knows it, the same way I know it. Do they have nukes?
Let me be perfectly clear. I am not in the employ of anyone associated.
What's the name of your organisation?
UK Lawyers for Israel began as a voluntary association of lawyers looking for the proper application of law to Israel, Israelis, and combating anti-Semitism. It is truly remarkable. We are having a different conversation. This is a circus, and I am actually seeking to address practical questions, including the disgusting situation that we are now left with, where the international community has said that Palestinian civilians must uniquely be kept in a war zone, may not be permitted to leave. That is what I am hearing being advocated for consistently, so that they can be continued to be used not just as human shields by Hamas, but as human sacrifices, dragging this conflict out. The tragedy of this misinformation and this propaganda is not just that Jews are being gunned down and burned in the street. It is also that Palestinian civilians are continuing to suffer as a result of this war, but also of Hamas suppression, repression, torture, and the stealing of aid, which has been well documented. The fact that people like the two of you will continue to put out this false information, to perpetuate this conflict, to perpetuate Palestinian suffering is truly disgusting. What have I said that's false?
I didn't think anyone could be more disingenuous than the UK ambassador. I got to say, Natasha, you've got right up there. You've crossed that little bar, haven't you?
If you can indicate one aspect of what I have said that is incorrect, we will have this conversation. But so far, you are throwing out appallingly misconceived allegations, which are baseless.
Do you know what?
Pierce,
Israel.
Notice she couldn't answer the question.
I had Jonathan
about whether Israel
Conricus on, who was a
nukes.
former IDF guy, obviously, and even he was able to admit a lot of what Israel is now doing is wrong, and it just shouldn't be happening the way that it's happening. When you blindly don't, I mean, I think that Hamas are blindly, ideologically to one side of this. They're a bunch of genocidal maniacs. I think people like Smodrich are genocidal maniacs, and I think anyone on the pro-Israeli side, particularly a lawyer who can listen to what Smodrich said last week and not understand that he is actually promoting war crimes out of his very mouth.
We haven't discussed Smotrich, and I'm not particularly interested in what he has to say because it's...
Well, he's the finance minister of the Israeli government. He's one of the three most powerful people in the country.
He clearly doesn't have an input to the war cabinet's policy
or how this
campaign has been run.
Even you don't believe that as you say it.
Well, I wouldn't be saying it if I didn't believe it.
You don't think that Smodrich has much influence over the Israeli government?
Not on the conduct.
He done anything about the Israeli government?
Not on the conduct of this war,
It's like saying
Goebbels
didn't have any control over policy. Therefore, it doesn't matter what he said.
I didn't interrupt Mr. Smith. The fact of the matter is that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Everything that the Israeli army, the Air Force, and the Military Advocate General Corps, which is actually unique, in the manner in which it approves strikes and the military tactics that the IDF launch. In fact, when I was on the ground in Gaza, including with a very senior military official from the UK, Sir John McCall, all of the group remarked that the procedures that Israel had put in place were unprecedented, that it wasn't just adhering to international humanitarian law, the law of armed conflict, but in every respect was going far above the requirements, including in taking precautions to prevent civilian casualties.
How have they been so careful? Have they managed to destroy 70% of Gaza and killed, I think it's 50 to 60,000 people?
Well, those again are Hamas figures, which are not accurate.
What's the figure?
Well, you heard, I think, from the ambassador, 30,000.
How many people have you killed?
30,000. There you go with you again. I think there's been some misbriefing in this.
Well, you seem to be speaking on behalf of the government.
No, I'm speaking on behalf of the facts and the proper application of law, which I appreciate neither of you seem to be particularly interested in. But I will maintain my interest, in particular, the fact that these casualty figures by Hamas do not take account of how these people are said to have died. We know Hamas are shooting their own civilians. That false report of Palestinian civilians at aid centres being targeted by Israel, that was in fact Hamas shooting them.
You don't know that.
We have the drone footage.
You don't know that.
And we have
You actually don't know who killed them.
We have consistent accounts.
The investigation is still going on, but of course it's an Israeli investigation, which will doubtless exonerate the Israeli forces.
We also know that Palestinian civilians are killed by indiscriminate missiles. Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas rockets, when they fall short in the Gaza Strip, they don't fall with a proportionality analysis. They don't fall precisely in the way that Israeli strikes are conducted with warnings before.
If you're doing everything so magnificently by the book, why is it that so many allies of Israel are now queuing up, and former prime ministers of Israel are queuing up to condemn it? Are they all utterly deluded?
No, there are two particular reasons for this. The first is what we have seen with the manufacturing of this disinformation that comes out of Gaza from Hamas, that is promoted by NGOs formally respected like Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, that is then in turn reported by UN special rapporteurs, that finds its way into Security Council resolutions or General Assembly resolutions, that then in turn makes it up to institutions like the ICC and the ICJ. And then, once that circle of disinformation is complete, these matters are often re-reported by the NGOs that started this disinformation cycle in the first place. That's reason number one. Reason number two is because of the mode in which the international media have conducted their reporting of this conflict. We have the Al-Ali hospital as a prime example on the 17th of October 2023. Immediately it was reported that this was an Israeli airstrike. That was false. Peers, just like the reports of Israel targeting Palestinian civilians trying to get aid were false. I urge you to use a little bit of logic here to assess what on earth Israel's objective could be, targeting civilians or hitting hospitals like this willy-nilly, which it does not do without good reason, because Hamas has used them as command and control centers, and when it provides warnings to enable civilians to evacuate. Why on earth would Israel be targeting Palestinian civilians when it has been seeking from the get-go to evacuate them, to provide humanitarian corridors, which it has defended, even though Hamas has fired onto these civilians as they seek to flee areas where Hamas has embedded its terror infrastructure in these civilian areas, in mosques, schools, hospitals, and every second house when I was in Rafah.
So the most important part about what Natasha was saying there was the last 20 seconds, and I would say maybe the last 45 seconds, where they were both silent, just listening to her spit off facts of what exactly is the infrastructure that Hamas has put in place in order for Dave and in order for Piers, in order for all these people to have the same reactions that they've done. And if you actually go back through the 7th of October and you watch Piers Morgan over and over and over and the evolution of his stance, it's so interesting to see how in the beginning he obviously publicly condemned, and I appreciate everything that he said, and I do still think that he doesn't support Hamas, he doesn't agree with Hamas, he said it many, many times, but he has had access to a lot of this planned and orchestrated propaganda of trying to convert people. And he has himself actually been converted, but you see in the last 45 seconds where Natasha is talking about their brilliant strategy of embedding what they do into the people who live there, into the homes, into the civilian neighborhoods, into the mosques, into the hospitals, into the playgrounds. Every single place that you would walk by in your own neighborhood, you can just imagine in every corner, in every nook, underneath, beneath the ground, somewhere, some hidden trap house where it's a military compound. That's exactly what they've been able to do. And the thing is if Piers or Dave had an opportunity to go to the territory and go see it for themselves, it would completely shift how they talk about this conflict, completely. And you even heard Natasha say that when she went there. That's why I have a lot of respect for people who are talking about this at the level that Natasha is, because she's been there. Ben Shapiro has been there. Douglas Murray has been there. Douglas Murray asked Dave Smith on Joe Rogan a few weeks ago, when was the last time you were in Gaza in the Middle East? He's never been there. He's never been there. So you've never even been to Israel. He's talking about Israel as if he's lived there his whole life. Same with Piers. And these people who absolutely know the depth and the length at which they can reach people across the world through their platform, they absolutely know that what they say is being viewed and supported by millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people. to continue to spew this out. And it's a beautiful system because once you get a clickbait title or clickbait thumbnail and something that actually grabs people's attention and you get all of them to listen and you just say one thing, Hamas knows that that is what gets the snowball to spiral and pick up its momentum. And now you just don't have Dave doing it, or don't have Piers doing it. You have hundreds, thousands of influential people across the world doing it. And it is a beautiful, beautiful theory. It's a beautiful propaganda theory system, and it just works. It really does work. But you can go back and you can look at the consistency at which Natasha has spoken, or Douglas has spoken, or Ben has spoken, or me, or Tal, or Sar. Any of these people have been speaking since the beginning of the war. It's like we're continuing to say the same thing. We're continuing to say the same thing because, yes, of course, different events have occurred, but at the end of the day, the principles haven't changed. The principles haven't changed. And if your principles have changed throughout the course of this war, you have to ask yourself why they have changed. I would love to understand if you were to play in front of Piers a video of him November, December 2023 to a video in May, June 2025, ask him where his principles have changed. Point blank. Thank you so much for all your support. I'll see you next time. If you want to continue the conversation, you can support my work for free. Discord does not cost a thing. It is the best way to connect with me and others who are seeking the truth. The link is in the description. But if you want to take it one step further, my Patreon gives you access to the Israel you don't see, uncovering the untold stories of what mainstream media does not show you. The link is in the description, and it helps me to continue this work. Or if you're just looking to help this thing go, PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee is a really easy way to support me. This channel, this work does not happen without all of you. Thank you. I love you. I'll see you next time.